Hello, welcome. This is, well, you may recognize it as Minecraft. For those of you who stumbled across this is part of a project for a biology course looking at ways to visualize phylogenetic trees, the relationships of different forms of life and how it all fits together. So what I've done here is, you see this brick road in front of me forms the main basis of the tree, and whenever that branches in two, that shows two different groups of organisms going along their own evolutionary paths. I have included all organisms that appear in Minecraft that also have direct, obvious real-life analogues. So no zombies, no dragons, and at the same time no real-life creatures that aren't in Minecraft, except for the odd honorary mention. Like you'll notice here, I've given a wee honorary mention to bacteria and archaea because none of them are represented in Minecraft, and it's a shame because there's so many of them. But moving on to the ones that are. The first to branch off, as you might expect, almost everything that's represented is an animal or a plant. There are fungi as well, but there are slimes in Minecraft. Now, these may not be the same as the slime molds that you'd see in real life, but I thought it was close enough to count. In real life, they do tend to be a bit more, well-behaved, stationary. So, moving onwards. Here you've got the two main branches. One of them leads to animals and also to the fungi. And yes, fungi seem to be more closely related to animals than to plants. It's something I've known for ages, but which always takes me by surprise. And on the left, we're going to do the plants first. Now, the first to peel off in this direction, we've got moss. Now, moss is quite a broad term. It covers a large number of organisms across several different phyla. I didn't need to worry about that much for this, because ultimately there only was one representative of moss in Minecraft, and whichever species it would happen to be, it branches off from the rest of the plants first. So there wasn't much to worry about there. The next one to branch off to the side, we have spruce trees. Everything else in here is a flowering plant. Much like real life, a lot of the focus is on flowering plants. We've got water lilies over to the side. Yes, give them a wee pull. You can hop onto them, so that's nice. We've got a wee sort of false start there, which is because originally when I was trying to plan all this out, I had the magnolids marked, and it turns out there aren't any of them in Minecraft. But it's a good point to introduce the concept. How you see how there's cobblestone down there. Sometimes we don't quite know what the relationships between certain organisms are. We know roughly how the tree works, but we've got different ideas about which ones might be most closely related to which other ones. And so when that's happened, when I was building this tree, when there were a number of different organisms or groups of organisms, and there was no clear consensus on how they were related, I put in a bit of cobblestone, I broke up the path a wee bit, it's a little bit less stable, and wherever you're sure of the path, then it marches proudly on along the brick road. So, we've got monocots and eudicots, which are the two main groups left represented. You'll notice that we're jumping, well, if you know your taxonomy, you'll notice that we're jumping through quite a few stages sometimes, and that's basically based on if there aren't any representatives of a certain group, then I've not usually bothered to talk my way through all the stages that we're going down. So, along here, got the genus Tulipa, and yes, you can take a guess at which genus that represents. I will put spoilers in the doobly-doo if I remember. Got alliums and blue orchids. Flowers are generally quite well represented in Minecraft because part of the game is decorating your house. Along here, we've got sugarcane and wheat. Now, grass we've got here. We also, you may have noticed, have grass everywhere else. But here's where we have grass growing nice and tall. I considered making the whole area barren and only having, life where it was meant to be, but I thought that would be quite a lot of effort for what I was trying to do, and it wouldn't necessarily look all that nice just for the sake of grass. So the grass gets a free pass to appear in other places. So moving back to the eudicots. Got poppies over to the left there. Oh, I forgot to write their name on the sign. I'll have to come back and do that at some point. What you'll notice here, and you've got some cacti on the right. There are two very large families of flowering plants, the rosids and the asterids, and the same here, they're quite well represented. So past the cacti and into the asterids, Over on this branch, we've got carrots on the right, and quite a few different flowers just arranged around here. I haven't bothered putting the species names on. And again, notice there, the relationship between these three, we're not quite sure. We know that they form a group, but we're not sure which particular pair are more closely related to each other than to the third one. So that's been left ambiguous. And again here, between these three, between potatoes over here, Solanum tuberosum, and the azure bluet and lilacs. So over in this other direction, away from the asterids, we're going towards the rosids. We've got peonies before we get there, so peonies are closely related to the rosids, but not actually a member of that family. So going into the rosids, we've got vines here. Again, it's a bit of an ambiguous name, it applies to a lot of things. I just picked the viniest vine I could find and let it apply to that. And you'll notice things are all nice and stable around here. There's actually, quite often there's a bit of ambiguity when I was researching the tree where we're not sure how groups are related, but just as luck would have it, we know the relationships between the organisms that were in the game. So this looks a lot tidier than it would be if you were to include some other organisms. And also the way that each organism kind of peels off one by one for a while, that's just total coincidence. So we've got cocoa beans here. Along here we've got the acacia trees and the roses that give the rosids their name. Moving onwards around here, we've got some slightly complicated ones here. We've got pumpkins and melons. You see, for each I've specified, well, with the pumpkins a species and with the melons the family in general. It's a wee bit more complicated than that. The name melon applies to quite a few species in that family, but not all of them. The pumpkins are in the same family. Sometimes the word pumpkin is used to refer to other species, and so on. That's a subtlety that hasn't really come across much in what I've represented here. And along here, now, not being all that experienced with plant classification, I always find it weird how widely spread different trees are across their evolutionary tree, so it's reassuring for me to see our oaks and birches together as quite close relatives. Well, that's us done with the plants. I'm going to stop recording for just now and nip back across to the animals and the fungi. Hello, so we're back here again. The sharp-eyed amongst you may have noticed that the time of day has changed. Yes, it was getting quite late and I didn't want all the monsters running about while I was trying to do a guided tour, so I just went to bed, so to speak, and let a new day begin. So, going down the animals and fungi branch, on the right the fungi are in this greenhouse. All that we really have here are a couple of non-specified mushrooms. You can also get giant mushrooms as well, but yeah, there's not all that much in depth in this game to do with the mushrooms, but at least they're there, you know? It's not all animals and plants. Before we get on to the main represented phyla of the animals, let's just take a wee look here. We've got some sponges. They're kind of included as blocks of materials, but you know, they're still living things, and I probably shouldn't, but hey, whee! There we go. They're all our sponges. Let's head out again. Everything else we have, even though there are loads and loads of animal phyla, is either a chordate, an arthropod, or a mollusk. And apart from the chordates, there are hardly any representatives of those. So down here, in the mollusks, our main representative is squid. And if we look in there, oh, we've got a good showing today. You can see those squids swimming around in there. Don't worry, they have a larger cavern down below they can swim into if they want to. They do look quite trapped as it is. As for the arthropods, we've only got these two representatives. We've got the silverfish here. Now this is the first time I've ever come back to the silverfish cage and all of them have still been there. They are good at escaping. And over here we have spiders. I mean, the game differentiates between spiders and cave spiders, but I couldn't find any particularly meaningful real-life analogy for that, so I just threw them all in together. Those are all the arthropods. There's not even a single beetle, can you believe it? I don't think silverfish are beetles. I'm pretty sure they're not. Moving on to the vertebrates. Fish are in the game. They don't really swim around as animals. They're just, as far as the game's concerned, items that appear when you go fishing. So I didn't actually bother trying to classify them. You've got, from left to right, on those frames at the back, you've got pufferfish, clownfish, and fish, so I decided not to worry about classifying them. Moving on. No reptiles, no amphibians. We do have chickens before we get to the mammals, so that's nice. And it seems that some of them have been laying eggs. Yes. Okay, moving on to the mammals. Again, there are several groups, two main groups represented here. Lorisiatherians and Euarchontogliers. So if we look on the left, we've got bats. Now I hope that they're in there. In fact, I'm actually going to do a wee sneaky thing. Here we go. The bats. What do you mean? Nothing's changed. So yes, we've got some bats sheltering up there. Ooh, they're quite tightly packed in that corner. Moving onwards. Now you'll notice the paths become all broken again. The bricks are quite spread out. There are quite a lot of different versions of this tree that kind of contradict each other a bit. Parts of it are seem to be quite well established. Like everyone seems to agree that wolves, missing, and ocelots, also missing, are closely related. Moving on here, got horses, and then these three. We're quite sure of the relation. Got pigs in that one, sheep in there, hello, and some cows who don't care that we're here. Moving back, we've only got a couple of mammals left. Oh, I forgot there's a button for running. Oh, things are going a bit slowly. Oh, yep, the game has jumped a wee bit there. So up here we have the, you'll remember the pronunciation from earlier. We've got rabbits on the right. Now, obviously, there's quite a lot of big jumps in here. We went straight from animals to vertebrates to mammals to those ones to the family. So obviously, we're jumping through stages. If you know what the classification of animal is, and you know it's in here, you'll be able to find it quickly just by following the right paths, but you'll find yourself jumping through a few stages of classification to get there. Along this path, we have the human hutch. So if we look in here, I've not got the sound recording, but they're all going at me. And so yeah, got the humans here. And that is basically where we'll finish the tour. Now, for the most part here, I've not really talked much about how this was built or some of the wider implications of what we can do with it. So there's a blog post that's going to be associated with this, which will go into a bit more depth. Other than that, well, I do kind of hope you enjoyed the tour, because then, you know, maybe they'll let me do it again sometime. Get a chance to stretch my legs. You know, it's nice. It's nice out there. Hmm. 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 Hmm.